Previously, a $2 million Victorian doll, purchased by collector Marcus Chen, forensic expert doctor. Sarah Williams exposed the horrific truth. The doll was the preserved body of Diana Maxwell, a young civil rights activist murdered in 1963. The investigation hit a wall. The powerful man responsible, Thomas Richter Sr., was long dead. Diana was finally laid to rest, a small measure of peace for a 5-7-year-old crime. But for Sarah, the case wasn't over. Her research pointed to a chilling pattern. 3 other girls vanished, forgotten. While the world saw a closed case, Sarah saw the beginning of a hunt. That hunt led back to 1974, New Orleans. In a private, gaslit mansion, another Kastner piece was sold at an unlisted auction. The wealthy collectors saw craftsmanship and art. They did not perceive the victim inside. For decades, the secret was hidden again in a private vault, the new owners believing the truth was buried forever. And Dr. Sarah Williams was about to prove they were all wrong. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you the story. The cursor on Sarah's monitor blinked, a steady, insistent pulse in the 3 a.m. darkness of her lab. The world saw a case that was closed, a tragedy finally put to rest with Diana Maxwell's burial. Sarah saw a file that was still screaming. Her screen wasn't filled with just one victim. It was filled with 4. Diana was the anchor, the known point. The other 3 were ghosts, digital apparitions she had pulled from the static of cold case files. Angela Carter, 16. Atlanta, 1971. Dismissed as a runaway. Michelle Washington, 15. Memphis, 1972. Dismissed as a runaway. Teresa Bailey, 17. New Orleans, 1974. Dismissed as a runaway. All 3, like Diana, were black. All 3 were from segregated, under-policed neighborhoods where a missing girl was just a statistic, a problem that solved itself. The system hadn't just failed them, it had erased them. Sarah pulled up the map she had been building for weeks. It was a secondary monitor, a glowing web of connections. She had plotted the known movements of Dr. Wilhelm Kastner, the ghoulish taxidermist who had preserved Diana. His official business, a studio in New Orleans, was just a front. His real work, documented in fragmented ledgers and invoices, was private commissions for medical schools and, she was becoming certain, a very select clientele. She dragged a line from Angela Carter's last known location in Atlanta to a date on Kastner's timeline. Angela vanished on August 3, 1971. Kastner's New Orleans studio, according to a shipping manifest Sarah had paid a small fortune for, received a private commission payment from a shell corporation on August 10th. The fee was astronomical. She dragged another line. Michelle Washington vanished from Memphis on December 12, 1972. A specimen acquisition fee was paid to the same shell company on December 20th. The last line was the most direct. Teresa Bailey vanished from a street in New Orleans, just blocks from Kastner's studio, on June 1, 1974. Kastner's ledger noted a successful local acquisition on June 2nd. Sarah leaned back, rubbing her eyes. The exhaustion was a physical weight, but the adrenaline of the hunt was a sharper, cleaner force. This was not a coincidence. This was a method. This was a supply chain. They weren't just runaways, she whispered to the empty lab. They were hunted. The case had consumed her. After Diana's funeral, Marcus Chen had offered her an open-ended grant. Find the truth, he had said, his face etched with the guilt of a man who had unwittingly displayed a human being as a trophy, whatever it costs. So she had built this lab, a private fortress of data and forensics. She wasn't a cop. She wasn't bound by warrants or probable cause. She was a scientist, and this was the most important pattern she would ever identify. The problem was, a pattern wasn't proof. It was a theory. It was a spider's web, and she was the only one who could see it. Kastner was dead. Richter Sr. was dead. The shell company was defunct. The trail was 50 years old and frozen solid. She stared at the 1974 file. Teresa Bailey, the New Orleans local acquisition. That was the same year as the rumored auction from the intro hook. It was the same city. The connection was there, pulsing, waiting. She needed a new lead. She needed a new piece of data to connect the past to the present. She was hitting a wall of history, a fortress of dead ends. She had the what, she had the how. She just couldn't find the who, the person who was still alive, the person who had inherited this network. She was about to close the file when her secure terminal, the one Marcus had provided, chimed. It wasn't an email. It was a proximity alert, a secure data packet transfer. A new file had just been dropped into her encrypted drive. She opened it. The sender was anonymous, routed through 3 continents, but she knew it was from Marcus. It was a single, plain text file. The message was short, just a whisper from the art underworld. A private, unlisted auction, New Orleans. The centerpiece is uncatalogued. Rumor is, it's one of the last Kastner-preserved pieces. Plural, they're calling it the Southern Belle. Sarah's blood ran cold. Pieces, plural. It confirmed her theory. It wasn't a cold case. It was an active market, and it was happening right now. Sarah stared at the word. Pieces. It was the confirmation she had been hunting for months. It meant her pattern was correct. It meant Diana wasn't the only one. And it meant, terrifyingly, that they were still being sold. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from a cold, sharp rage. She picked up her secure phone and dialed Marcus Chen. He answered on the first ring, as he always did. "You saw it," he said. His voice was tense. "Pieces." He used the word pieces. Plural, Marcus. A heavy sigh on the other end of the line. "I know. That's why I sent it." "Sarah. This came from a source I don't know if I trust. It's from the shadow world. The high-end, off-market art world. These are not good people. They're not people, Marcus. They're ghouls. They're trading human remains like they're baseball cards. The Southern Belle. God. They gave her a name. What are you thinking?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "I'm thinking this is it. This is the link. The 1974 auction, Teresa Bailey's disappearance, and now this. It's all New Orleans. It's the same city, the same network. It has to be. Sarah, you're a scientist, not a spy. You can't just walk into a secret auction." "What's the alternative?" she shot back, her voice rising. "I let it happen? I let another victim get sold to some monster who wants to put her on display in his basement? We just buried Diana. Her sister Ruth is still grieving. I am not going to stand by and let this happen again." There was a long pause. Marcus was the patron, the man with the checkbook, but he was also a man consumed by his own guilt. He was her ally, but he was cautious. "I'm not saying let it happen," Marcus said, his voice quiet. "I'm asking what the plan is. You can't stop a multi-million-dollar auction by yourself. You'll get hurt, or worse." "The plan," Sarah said, pacing her lab, "is to get evidence. The plan is to find out who is selling this piece. That's the who. That's the person who inherited Kastner's work. That's the person who inherited Richter Sr.'s network." She stopped at the map on her monitor. The glowing lines all pointed to one place. "This is the first new lead in 50 years. It connects the past to the present. If I can get in, if I can just get a look, I can get data, I can get a scan. I can prove what it really is. And then what? Call the police? The New Orleans PD won't move on a rumor. You need probable cause." "I'll get probable cause," Sarah said. "I have to. This is the only way." "What do you need from me?" Marcus asked, the resignation in his voice clear. He knew he couldn't stop her. "I need you to find out everything you can about this auction. Who's running it, where it is, and who this whisper source is. I need to know what I'm walking into." "I can do that," Marcus said. "The source is just a handle, a ghost in the system, but I can trace the data packet's origin. It'll take a few hours. But Sarah, are you sure about this? This isn't academic. This is real. The people who do this, they're not just collectors. They're protecting a conspiracy." They've been protected by silence for half a century, Sarah said, looking at the face of Angela Carter on her screen. It's time someone made some noise. She hung up the phone. The adrenaline was gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. She wasn't just a scientist anymore. She was the only person alive who knew the full pattern. She looked at the 3 girls on her screen, their high school photos staring back at her, full of hope, frozen in time. "I'm coming," she whispered. "I'm coming." Before she called Marcus back, she had to make one more call. The official one. The right one. She pulled up the contact for Detective James Porter. He was retired from the NYPD, but after the Diana Maxwell case, he had moved into a cold case consultant role, a quiet job that let him keep digging. He had been their ally, the man who had navigated the system to get them justice for Diana. She connected via a secure video link. His face appeared, tired and lined, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. "Sarah," he said, "no preamble. It's late. This can't be good news." "It's not," she said. She laid it all out. The pattern, the 3 other girls, the Kastner-Richter connection, and finally, the whisper email from Marcus, the New Orleans auction. She watched his face as he processed it. He was a good cop, a good man. She was hoping for a flash of righteous anger, a call to action. Instead, she saw his shoulders slump. "Sarah," he began, and she knew. "Don't," she cut him off. "Don't you dare tell me there's nothing you can do." "I'm not telling you that," he said, his voice a low growl of frustration. "I'm telling you what the system will say. I'm telling you the truth. You have a brilliant, terrifying theory. But that's all it is. It's a theory. It's more than a theory, James. It's a pattern. The dates match, the locations match, the method matches. It's circumstantial," he shot back, his fist hitting his desk. "I'm not the one you have to convince. I believe you. I've seen this file. I know you're right. But my captain? The NOPD? They'll laugh you out of the room. You want me to call the New Orleans PD and say what? A scientist I know got a whisper email about a secret auction, and she thinks they're selling a 50-year-old murder victim based on a pattern she found." He shook his head, the frustration radiating off him. "They won't just say no, Sarah. They'll open an investigation into you, into your source. They'll burn Marcus's connections to the ground. So we do nothing. We just let it happen. We let them sell her?" "No," Porter said, leaning into the camera. "We don't. But we can't go in hot. We can't use the badge. Rumors are not probable cause. My captain already warned me off this entire line of inquiry. The Diana Maxwell case is closed. The brass wants it to stay closed. It's too much paperwork, too much history, too many powerful dead people involved." This was it. The wall. The same wall that had let Diana Maxwell be seen as a prank for 24 hours. The same wall that had labeled 3 grieving families as liars and their missing daughters as runaways. The system wasn't just broken. It was designed to protect the powerful. "So you're telling me I'm on my own," Sarah said, her voice flat. Porter looked at her, and for a moment, the cop was gone. It was just James. "Officially, yes, I cannot and will not authorize or sanction this. It's illegal, it's dangerous, and you should not go." He paused, then continued, his voice dropping. "But unofficially, if a private citizen, say, an art authenticator, were to legally attend a private auction, and if she were to see something that was clearly a human body, and if she were to call 911, that would be probable cause. That would be something the NOPD couldn't ignore. A tiny spark of hope, but they'd stop me. I'd never make it to the phone." "I know," Porter said. I'm telling you the box you're in. This is the one and only way this works. You need irrefutable proof, a photo, a scan, something a cop can look at and know he has to make an arrest. But getting that proof?" He met her gaze. "Be careful, Sarah. These are not the bumbling idiots from the movies. These are the people who funded the politicians who hired the cops who buried these cases in the first place. You're not stirring up a hornet's nest. You're walking into the lion's den, and I won't be able to pull you out." The call ended. Sarah stared at the blank screen. The system had failed. Again, Porter had told her not to go. But he had also, in his own way, told her exactly what she needed to do. She wasn't on her own. She was just the only one who could go. Sarah didn't sleep. She sat in her lab until the sun came up, not in hesitation, but in preparation. Porter's call had solidified it. The system wasn't coming. There was no cavalry. There was only her. She moved with a cold, methodical purpose. She wasn't just packing clothes for a trip to New Orleans. She was packing for a war. She opened a secure, lead-lined safe in her lab. Inside wasn't money or a weapon, but her real tools. She pulled out a high-powered jeweler's loupe, one she had custom-fitted with a micro camera. She checked the battery, formatted the internal memory card. Next, she grabbed a watch. It was heavy, a thick, ugly, tactical-looking thing. To anyone else, it was a cheap digital timepiece. She turned it over. On the back, where it would press against her skin, was a small, polished sensor. It was a dermal-level density scanner, a prototype she'd been developing to detect fakes, to see under the paint and resin of a forgery. She had never tested it on this, but she knew it would work. It would prove what was under the skin. She packed a series of encrypted hard drives, a burner phone, and a small, nondescript black dress. She would be Dr. Eris Thorne, a private, eccentric authenticator from Switzerland. A ghost. Her gaze fell on the file for Diana Maxwell. On the photo of her sister, Ruth, at the funeral, a look of profound grief, and beneath it, a core of iron. This was why. The other girls on her screen, Angela, Michelle, Teresa, they had families too. Families who had been waiting for 50 years, wondering, grieving, never knowing. She was the only one who could give them an answer. The thought wasn't a burden. It was a scalpel. It cut away all the fear, all the doubt, leaving only the sharp edge of a single, necessary action. She picked up her secure phone and dialed Marcus. "I'm going," she said. "I know," he replied. "I've been working on your ticket. The source. It's not a source. It's a trap." Sarah's heart hammered. "What? Not for you. For someone else." The whisper wasn't sent to me. It was an intercept. My people found it in the dark web, in a data stream going to a different collector, one who's been known to talk. The auction is real, but the invitation is a ghost. They're letting one new person in, a +1 to a known client. That's your way in. But the second you're inside, you're on their territory. The security is digital, not just physical. No phones, no comms. You'll be cut off. "Good," Sarah said. "It means they're protecting something. It means they know what they have." "I can still get you in," Marcus said, his voice strained. "The client I'm borrowing the invitation from, he owes me. A lot. He thinks you're Dr. Eris Thorne, a Swiss authenticator he's bringing in to verify the craftsmanship of the Kastner piece before he bids." "That's perfect," Sarah said. "It gives me a reason to get close. It gives me a reason to use my tools. And it gives them a reason to watch you. You'll be the new face, the one they don't know." "Sarah, I can have a private security team on the street." "No," she said, instantly. "No security, no tails. They'll spot it. They'll spot anything out of place. This has to be clean. I go in as Thorne. I get the scan. I get out." She could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. This was the moment. The crossing the threshold. "Marcus," she said, her voice softer. "I'm not asking for permission. I'm asking for a ticket." A long, heavy sigh. "Then, the plane is on the tarmac. A car will pick you up in 30 minutes. The file for Dr. Eris Thorne is being uploaded to your secure drive now. God help us, Sarah." "He has," Sarah said, zipping the bag. "He sent us a map, New Orleans, the French Quarter. The auction wasn't in a public gallery, but in a private, 3-story brick mansion on a street with no name, hidden behind a towering, ivy-covered wall. The air was thick with humidity and the smell of jasmine and old money. Sarah, now Dr. Eris Thorne, was walked in on the arm of a man named Duvale, the client Marcus had blackmailed. Duvale was terrified, his face pale and slick with sweat. "Just be quick," he whispered to her, his eyes darting to the silent, suited guards at the door. "This is not a place to make mistakes. I am simply here to observe the craftsmanship," Sarah replied, her voice cool, accented. She let them take her burner phone, her purse. She was left with nothing but her dress, her shoes, and the ugly watch on her wrist. The guards didn't even look at it. It was too cheap. The preview was in the main ballroom. It was a grotesque parody of an art show. Dozens of the world's wealthiest people, faces she recognized from magazines, mingled with champagne, their voices a low, cultured buzz. And in the center of the room, on a raised platform under a soft spotlight, was the piece. The Southern Belle, Sarah's breath caught. It was a young woman, perhaps 17, posed delicately on a velvet chaise. She was dressed in an antebellum-style gown, all lace and silk. It was, as the whisper had promised, a work of craftsmanship, and it was the most obscene thing Sarah had ever seen. She moved through the crowd, her heart a cold stone in her chest. Duvale was at her side, a nervous shadow. "Ah, Dr. Thorne. Duval. So glad you could make it." Sarah turned. A man was approaching, smiling. He was young, impeccably dressed, with eyes that were ancient and cold. "I am." "Admiring the centerpiece," Sarah said, gesturing. "A true Kastner," the man said. "My grandfather was one of his first patrons. He appreciated the work." Sarah's blood froze. Grandfather, this was him. This had to be him. "You may inspect it, if you wish," the man said, a wave of his hand. "Duval, she is your guest, correct? Authenticate to your heart's content." This was it. The man, the grandson, was giving her permission. She approached the platform. A low velvet rope was the only barrier. The guard nearby watched, but he was relaxed. This was part of the show. Sarah pulled the high-powered loop from her pocket. "The detail on the resin is extraordinary," she murmured. She bent close, as if examining the doll's lace collar. Her hand, the one with the watch, braced itself on the chaise, her wrist just inches from the specimen's ankle, which was peeking out from under the dress. She activated the scanner. A low, imperceptible vibration against her skin. 1, 2, 3. The craftsmanship on the ankle. "It's often where they slip," she said, stalling. The guard shifted. She had seconds, and then she saw it. With her loop, she scanned the ankle. The guard saw her looking. She had to make it real. She spotted it. A tiny, tiny flaw in the resin, almost invisible. A serial number. Not a maker's mark, but a medical one. Faint, etched under the resin. She didn't dare write it down. She became the camera. A 339L 1974. She repeated it in her mind. A 339L 1974. The scanner on her watch gave a final, soft pulse. Scan complete. She stood up, pocketing her loop. She had the visual, she had the scan, she had the proof. "It is, as you say," she said to Duvale. "Flawless." She turned, ready to walk, ready to run, and a voice behind her, smooth and cold as a tomb, stopped her dead. "A remarkable piece, isn't it, Dr. Williams?" The name hit her like a physical blow. Dr. Williams. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a guess. Sarah's blood turned to ice. She had been so careful. The false name, the burner phone, the borrowed invitation. None of it had mattered. She turned slowly. The man from before the grandson was standing there. He was smiling, a thin, polite, reptilian expression. He had known who she was the entire time. He had let her approach. He had let her inspect the piece. The entire room, the champagne, the music, the polite chatter, all of it faded. There was only this man and his cold, knowing eyes. I'm afraid you have me mistaken," she said, her Swiss accent sounding thin and absurd. "Please," he said, with a low, amused chuckle. "Let's not. Dr. Sarah Williams, forensic art expert. The woman who cost poor Marcus Chen $2 million and rediscovered. Diana Maxwell. We've been following your work. It's fascinating. He hadn't just been expecting her. He had been waiting for her. The auction preview was not a sale. It was a trap. It was a piece of cheese, and she was the mouse, and the door had just snapped shut. "Who are you?" she said, her voice dropping, all pretense gone. "I'm the host," he said, with a slight bow. "Lawrence Richter. My grandfather was Thomas Richter Sr. You've heard of him, I presume. Lawrence Richter. The grandson. The gatekeeper. The one who had inherited the entire grotesque network." "You knew I was coming," Sarah said. "It wasn't a question." "Of course," Lawrence said. He sipped his champagne. When Mr. Chen's client, Duvalet, suddenly needed a +1, a Swiss authenticator with no digital footprint, it was loud. "You are many things, doctor, but subtle is not one of them." He had seen the move before she'd even made it. He had let her walk in. "Why?" Sarah asked, her mind racing. "Why let her in? Why let her get close?" "Curiosity," Lawrence said, gesturing to the Southern Belle on the chaise. "I wanted to see the woman who had caused so much trouble. And I wanted to give you a choice." "A choice?" "My grandfather and his associates. They were men of their time. Crude. Violent. They left. A mess. Diana Maxwell. It was sloppy. Unforgivable." He leaned in, his voice dropping. "I am not my grandfather. I am a businessman. I inherited a collection and a network of appreciators. I am simply a broker, Dr. Williams. I provide a service to people who understand true beauty. People who, like my grandfather, hate to see it fade." He was confessing. He was standing in a room full of people, admitting to being a broker for human remains. "You're insane," she whispered. "I'm pragmatic," he corrected her. "And I am offering you that choice. You're a scientist. You appreciate the method, the preservation. Look at this piece. Is it not a triumph of the art? Kastner was a genius. He was testing her. He was seeing if she could be bought." "What is the choice, Lawrence?" "Leave," he said simply. "Leave New Orleans. Go back to your lab. Forget about Angela and Michelle and Teresa. Their files are cold. Let them stay cold. In return, I will even fund your research. You're an art expert. There are thousands of actual forgeries out there for you to find. Why waste your time on this?" He was offering her a bribe. He was offering her blood money to look the other way. She looked from his smiling, monstrous face to the silent figure on the chaise. The girl who had a name, a family, a life, before he and his grandfather had turned her into an asset. The no was on her lips, but a cold, professional calm settled over her. He had just made a mistake. He had confirmed her pattern. He had named her victims. "And if I say no?" she asked. Lawrence's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went flat. "That's the other part of the choice." He nodded to the guard by the door, the one who had been watching her. "I trust you'll be discreet," he said. It wasn't a request. It was the closing of the trap. "I'm not my grandfather," Lawrence Richter repeated, his smile fixed in place. He was a brute. He believed in making examples. "I believe in managing assets. And right now, Dr. Williams, you are a liability." The guard by the door, a man built like a refrigerator, had moved. He wasn't looking at the art anymore. He was looking at her. "You just confirmed it," Sarah said, her voice a low, steady tremor. She had to keep him talking. She had to understand the network. "Angela, Michelle, and Teresa. You said their names. You know." "I know," Lawrence agreed, taking another sip of champagne. "I am a curator, doctor. It's my responsibility to know the provenance of my collection. My grandfather, he was sentimental. He kept everything. Ledgers, diaries, the formulas from Kastner. It's a fascinating archive. He was admitting to everything. The arrogance was staggering. He wasn't just a monster, he was a proud one. He believed he was untouchable. "So this," Sarah said, gesturing to the southern bell. "This isn't Teresa Bailey?" Lawrence laughed, a short, sharp bark. "Oh, goodness no. Teresa was. 1974. A local acquisition. No, this is item 31A. From the 74 auction. My grandfather bought this one. This is what started his appreciation for the art. This is the one that inspired him to commission his own." Sarah's mind reeled. The horror of it. The 1974 auction wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Richter Sr. had seen this piece, and instead of being horrified, he had been inspired. He had sought out Kastner. He had commissioned the murders of Angela, Michelle, and the others. "And you?" Sarah pressed, her voice hard. "You're just continuing the family business? Selling off the collection?" "One must liquidate assets, Doctor," Lawrence said, shrugging. "My grandfather had eccentric tastes. My clients are more specific. They're not interested in the why. They are interested in the what. And what this is," he ran a hand almost lovingly over the silk of the bell's dress, "is priceless. It's the only one of its kind from that auction." "So you're the broker," Sarah said, the last piece clicking into place. "This whole thing, it's a show. To what? Drum up interest? Find new buyers?" "Exactly," Lawrence beamed. He was proud of her for figuring it out. "The old network is dead. The appreciators, they're dying off. Their children are finding these items in their vaults, and they're horrified. They call me, not the police. They call me, the Richter Archive, to handle it, to discreetly rehome these sensitive pieces. I am simply providing a service." He was a high-class sanitation service for murderers. "You're protecting them," Sarah whispered. "I am protecting history. I am protecting an art form." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Which brings us back to you. You are a problem. You are a scientist, yes, but you have no appreciation. You see a victim. I see a masterpiece. And I cannot and will not let you cheapen the collection." He was done talking. The choice was over. He had enjoyed the game, the sparring, but now he was bored. He raised his glass in a small toast. "It's a shame. You're the only person in the last 50 years who came close to understanding the scope of his work. My grandfather would have been impressed. In his own way." He nodded, a single, sharp gesture. The guard by the door began to move. The nod was all it took. The guard, a thick-necked man in a tight suit, began to move. He wasn't running. He didn't need to. He was walking, a deliberate, heavy-set predator, weaving through the chattering, champagne-sipping crowd. Lawrence Richter smiled, turned his back, and began a conversation with a woman in diamonds, as if it was over, as if Sarah was already gone. A cold dread hit her. No, she wasn't going to be handled. She wasn't going to be another specimen. She had the serial number in her head, a 339 L 1974. She had the scan on her watch. She had the proof. All she had to do was get out. The guard was 10 feet away. The main door was 50 feet away, on the other side of the room. On the other side of him. Sarah didn't wait. She acted. She grabbed the nearest thing, a tray of full champagne flutes from a passing waiter, and hurled it. Not at the guard, but at the southern bell. The sound of breaking glass, the splash of champagne, the collective horrified gasp of the collectors was a bomb exploding in the quiet room. "My God!" Sarah shrieked, in her Dr. Thorne accent. "It's a fake. It's resin. Look at the way it's chipped. It's a fraud." For a single second, the entire room, including the guard, froze. Their horror wasn't that she had attacked the piece, but that she had devalued it. It was the only distraction she needed. "Get her!" Richter's voice, no longer smooth. A raw, furious command. Sarah didn't run for the front door. The guard was already between her and it. She ran for the service exit, the one she'd clocked when she came in. She pushed past a man. "So sorry." She knocked over a standing lamp. The room was in chaos. She hit the service door. It was heavy, dark wood, She slammed her body against it and burst through. She was in a hallway, a kitchen, the clatter of pans, the shouts of staff. "Hey, you can't be in here," a chef yelled. "Fire," Sarah screamed. "Fire." She didn't look back. She saw the back door, the one for deliveries. She slammed the push bar and burst out into the humid New Orleans night. She was in an alley. It was dark, reeked of garbage and jasmine. A heavy thud behind her, the service door, the guard. He was faster than he looked. She sprinted. Her heels, the only in-character thing she'd worn, were a liability. She kicked them off, her bare feet hitting the slick, uneven cobblestones. The alley opened onto the street. Streetlights, music, people, safety. She heard him behind her, his heavy footsteps echoing. She didn't look for a cab. She ran straight into the middle of a crowd of tourists on a ghost tour. "Help," she screamed. "He's trying to rob me." The guard, seeing the wall of cell phones and curious faces, stopped. He was smart. He couldn't act. He couldn't grab her in front of 20 witnesses. Sarah pushed through the crowd, not stopping, not looking back. She turned a corner, then another, a frantic, random path. She finally saw a cab, its light on. She wrenched the door open and fell inside. "Where to, lady?" the cabbie asked, unbothered. "Go," Sarah panted, her heart trying to hammer its way out of her chest. "Just go. Get me to the Hotel Monteleone, fast." The cab pulled into traffic. She looked back. The alley was empty. The guard was gone. She was safe. She looked down at her wrist. The watch was still there. She had the serial number. She had the scan. She had won. The cab ride was a blur. Sarah didn't unclench her jaw until the hotel's heavy revolving door spun her into the lobby. She was barefoot, her dress stained with champagne, but she walked with the forced calm of a survivor. She got her key, her hands shaking, and didn't breathe until the deadbolt of her room slammed shut. She leaned against the door, her eyes closed. Safe. She was safe. She had the serial number seared into her memory. She had the scan on her watch. She had proof. Richter was an arrogant monster, but he had underestimated her. She slid the chain lock into place. Her heart was still a wild drum against her ribs. First things first. Get the data out. Get it to Porter. Get it to Marcus. She kicked the ruined dress aside and went to her laptop, which she'd left running, hidden in her suitcase. She pulled the watch from her wrist. It connected via a small, proprietary USB. She plugged it in. The watch face lit up, transferring data. She opened her laptop. The screen was black. A single line of white text blinked in the center. System error. No bootable device. A cold, sick feeling washed over her. No, no, no. She rebooted. The same message. The hard drive was gone. Wiped. Richter. The hotel Wi-Fi. He'd known where she was staying. He'd known. She grabbed her phone, the burner she'd bought for the trip. She tried the browser. The hotel Wi-Fi page came up, but when she tried to connect, a new page loaded. Local network failure. Service unavailable. She tried to switch to cellular data. The signal bar, usually full, was a single, flickering dot. Then, no service. Richter hadn't just let her go. He hadn't just lost her in the chase. He had cut her off. He hadn't trapped her body in the mansion. He had trapped her data in the hotel. He was a tech guy. A monster, yes, but a modern monster. He didn't use brute force. He used firewalls. He was probably using a signal jammer, a localized one, just for her room or this floor. This wasn't a chase. It was a script, and she had followed it perfectly. She was alone. She was in a box. She had no laptop, no Wi-Fi, no cell service. She looked at the watch, still plugged into the dead laptop. The data was in there, but she had no way to get it out. She ran to the hotel phone, the old-fashioned landline by the bed. She picked it up, a dial tone. Clear, steady, real. He hadn't cut the landline. Why? Was it an oversight? Or was it the only way he wanted her to communicate? Was he listening? She stared at the phone. It was a trap. Everything was a trap. She had the proof, but it was locked in a tiny digital prison on her wrist. She was a scientist with no lab, a witness with no voice. Richter hadn't lost. He was just playing with his food. She sat on the edge of the bed, the watch heavy in her hand. She had the serial number, a 339L 1974. It was the only thing that was real. The landline phone rang. It shrieked in the silence, a harsh, electronic sound. Sarah's heart stopped. She stared at it. It rang again. He wasn't just watching. He was calling. She picked it up, her hand trembling. "Hello? I'm glad you made it back to your hotel safely, Dr. Williams." It was Richter. His voice was calm, amused. "Did you enjoy the chase? What did you do to my computer?" "A simple precaution. You see, I can't let you leave with that data. It complicates the narrative. So here is the new choice, Sarah. You can walk out of that hotel, get on a plane, and this all goes away. Or you can stay. And my guard, the one you were so rude to, will come and retrieve my property." "The watch. He's in the lobby. He'll be up in 3 minutes. The line went dead. The dial tone buzzed in her ear. 3 minutes. It was a lie, a threat, a power move. But what if it wasn't? Sarah's mind raced. He wanted the watch. He wanted the scan data. That was the only thing he cared about. He had cut off her Wi-Fi, her cell, her laptop. He had her isolated. The landline, the old-fashioned, copper wire, analog landline. The one thing he couldn't easily jam from a distance. He was listening, but he hadn't blocked it. She slammed the phone down and immediately picked it up again. Her fingers punched in a number she had memorized. A long-distance, encrypted, secure line. The phone rang. Once, twice. Porter. His voice was gravel. "James, thank God. He's here. He knows," she said, whispering, her head under a pillow, as if that would stop Richter's bugs. "Sarah, what's going on?" "I've been trying to reach your cell. It's dead. He's jamming me. He's Richter, the grandson, Lawrence. He's running the whole thing. He's here. He's threatening me." "Where are you?" Porter's voice was all cop. "Hotel Monteleone. He says he has a man in the lobby. He wants the watch." "The watch? My scanner. I got it, James. I got the scan. It's on the watch, but he's wiped everything else. I'm trapped." "Okay, listen to me," Porter said. "He's playing you. He wants you to panic. He wants you to run. Don't run. He's given me 3 minutes, James." "Forget the 3 minutes," Porter said, his voice a sudden, sharp command. "I've been busy. I couldn't sleep after our call. I broke protocol. I went back to the evidence lockup for the Diana Maxwell case. The physical evidence. The boxes no one has touched in months. James, I don't have time. Shut up and listen. The NOPD is still 20 minutes away, even if I call them right now. You need to know what I found. I dug past the clothes, past the scene photos. I found the original box from the 1974 auction, the one my predecessors seized from a dead collector's estate back in the 80s. And inside, I found it. The original Kastner ledger from 1974. His personal records. Sarah's breath caught. The ledger does it. It lists the payment, Sarah. A transfer from a shell company. But the shell company, I traced it. It was funded by Richter Sr. It's the first hard link. But that's not the good part. "What's the good part?" she whispered, her eyes on the door. "He was a meticulous monster. He didn't just list the payment. He listed the invoice. The product code for the preservation chemicals he bought for the job. A product code. A string of numbers. A cold, electric shock ran up Sarah's spine. A 339L 1974. The serial number she had memorized. The one she'd seen on the specimen's ankle. It wasn't a medical serial number. It was a chemical batch number. The room, the threat, the guard in the lobby, it all fell away. There was only the sound of her own blood, roaring in her ears. "James," she said, her voice shaking. "I have something. I have a number. I saw it on the piece at the auction. Read it to me," Porter commanded. She read it. A 339L 1974. A long, agonizing silence on the other end of the line. She heard the clack of a keyboard. Then, a low, sharp whistle. "My God, Sarah." Porter's voice was hoarse. It's not just a match. It's the invoice line. The code you just read me. It's the batch number for the chemicals. They match. They invoiced her. Read that again, Sarah whispered, her knuckles white on the receiver. It's the batch number, Porter repeated, his voice low and electric. The ledger lists the chemical order. Polydur resin, batch. A 339L, 1974. It's a perfect match. You just tied the 1974 ledger to the victim in that room. You just proved the Southern Belle is a victim from Kastner's workshop. Sarah's mind was a blur. A 339L 1974. It wasn't just a code. It was a gravestone. It was the most important clue in the entire 50-year conspiracy. She pushed past the wave of nausea. James. The ledger. Is there anything else? A name? A location? No name, Porter said, his voice grim. Just specimen, 1974. But there. Wait. There's a delivery address. After the preservation was complete. A home. No, Porter said. It's a business. Art Safe Storage. In the Garden District. The ledger notes a final payment for permanent climate-controlled curation. Sarah's heart stopped. Curation, she repeated. He wasn't just selling them, Porter said, the horror dawning. He was storing them. The auction. The auction was just for one. The rest of them, Sarah said, her eyes wide. Angela, Michelle, the others. They're not. Gone. They're in the vault. He's a curator. He's been hoarding them. The entire time. She thought she was hunting for ghosts, for pieces scattered across the world. But they were all together. In one place. This changed everything. A sharp, metallic click from the hallway. Sarah froze. It was the sound of a keycard sliding into the lock of her hotel room door. James, she whispered, her voice barely a breath. He's here. Someone is outside my door. Sarah, get out of there. I can't. The chain is on. The handle turned. The door opened 2 inches, then hit the chain. A heavy, solid thud. Silence. Then, a heavy thud again, this time with a shoulder behind it. The wood around the chain splintered. Sarah, run, get in the bathroom, lock the door, Porter was yelling. Another thud. The wood was giving way. James, she said, her voice suddenly, terrifyingly calm. The fear was gone. He's not getting this watch. She looked at the watch, still plugged into the dead laptop. She looked at the heavy, old-fashioned, laminate desk. Another crash. The chain snapped. The door flew open. It was the guard from the auction. He was built like a stone wall, and he was staring at the watch in her hand. The boss wants the property, he grunted. He can't have it, Sarah said. As he lunged for her, she ripped the watch from the USB cable, turned, and brought the heavy, antique desk lamp down on his head with all her strength. It wasn't enough. He roared, swiping at her. She didn't run. She turned to the open door. Fire! She screamed at the top of her lungs. Fire! Help! The guard grabbed her, his hand like a steel trap on her arm. He was trying to drag her into the room, away from the hallway. She bit him, hard. He yelled, a real sound of pain, and his grip loosened for a fraction of a second. It was all she needed. She sprinted out into the hallway, screaming, the watch clutched in her hand. A door opened down the hall. A man in a bathrobe poked his head out. What the hell is going on? Call 911, Sarah screamed, running for the elevator. The guard was right behind her. The elevator doors were closing. Sarah threw herself through the gap, landing hard on the carpeted floor. She slammed the lobby button as the guard's fingers tried to pry the door open. He was too late. The doors closed. She was alone, hurtling towards the ground floor, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The watch was still in her hand. She was safe. But her plan was in ruins. She had the serial number. She had the ledger location from Porter. But she was exposed. Richter knew. He would be moving the other victims right now. By the time she got the NOPD to the storage facility, it would be empty. The elevator chimed. Lobby. She ran out, past a terrified-looking concierge who was on the phone. Yes, Room 1210, a disturbance. She didn't stop. She ran out the front door, into the New Orleans night, and didn't look back. She found a dark doorway 2 blocks away and crumpled to the ground, her mind racing. Richter had played his hand. He'd sent the guard. He had confirmed he was a man of violence, just like his grandfather. And he had failed. Now, it was her turn. She pulled out her secure phone. The signal jammer was gone. She was back on the grid. She called Porter. "I'm out." He sent a man. "I got away. Thank God," Porter breathed. "NOPD is en route to the hotel. Where are you?" "It doesn't matter," Sarah said. "He's going to move them. The art safe storage. He's going to clear it out. We have the proof, but we've lost the victims." "He'll be waiting for you, Sarah," Porter said. "He knows you'll go there. It's a trap." "I know," Sarah said, a new cold strategy forming. "He's an arrogant businessman. He thinks I'm a panicking scientist. He's not going to move 3 preserved bodies himself. He's going to send a team. But he will be there to oversee it. He's too much of a control freak." "What's the plan?" "He's expecting me to be a victim," Sarah said. "He's not expecting me to be a strategist. James, get your NOPD contact. Get them to the storage facility. But tell them to wait. Do not move in." "What are you?" "He's not the only one with resources," Sarah said. She hung up on Porter and immediately dialed Marcus. He answered in a single ring. "Sarah, what's happening?" "The hotel just—" "Marcus, listen to me. I need a distraction. A big one." "What kind of distraction?" "Lawrence Richter. He's not just an art broker. He's a businessman. He must have other companies. Public-facing. Legitimate. Vulnerabilities." "He does," Marcus said, and Sarah could hear the smile in his voice. "Richter Holdings. A private equity firm. Why?" "I need you to hit them," Sarah said. "I need you to hit them now. I need a financial crisis. I need a fire so big he has to leave the vault to go put it out." "Sarah," Marcus said, "that's highly illegal." "So is everything else we've done," Sarah shot back. "I am 2 blocks from a storage facility with the remains of 3 murdered women. I have a psychopath on his way to move them. I need you to pull him away. Can you do it, or not?" A pause, the sound of typing. "It's a beautiful, beautiful, sloppy firewall," Marcus murmured, almost to himself. "He spent all his money protecting his art, not his money. This is easy. Where do you want the fire, Sarah? His trust? His offshore accounts? His pension fund? All of it," Sarah said. "Burn it all." Sarah was in an unmarked car 2 blocks from art-safe storage. She was breathing hard. Her knee throbbed from the fall in the elevator, but she was alive. Detective LeBlanc, Porter's contact at NOPD, sat in the driver's seat, his face a mask of skepticism. "So, let me get this straight, Doctor," LeBlanc said, his Louisiana drawl thick. "We're sitting here, waiting for a cyber attack, on the word of a retired NYPD cop, to raid a rich man's art vault, all because of a hunch." "It's not a hunch," Sarah said, gripping the watch in her hand. "It's a 1974 chemical batch number, and it's in that building." LeBlanc sighed, unconvinced. "We'll give it 10 minutes, then we go home." Sarah stared at the entrance to the storage facility. It was a blank, windowless fortress. A black sedan was parked by the front door, Richter's car. He was in there. He was overseeing the move. Her secure phone buzzed in her hand. A text from Marcus. 1 word. "Hit." Nothing happened. 1 minute. 2. LeBlanc tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. "Well, Doctor." Then, the black sedan's doors flew open. A man in a suit, not Richter, sprinted out, his phone to his ear, his face pale with panic. He wrenched open the driver's door and yelled something inside. A moment later, Lawrence Richter himself burst from the storage facility. He wasn't smiling. His hair was undone, his jacket gone. He was on his own phone, and he was screaming. "What do you mean the trades are frozen? What do you mean federal inquiry?" He jumped into the sedan, which peeled out of the parking lot, tires smoking. Sarah looked at LeBlanc. "That's your distraction. LeBlanc's skepticism was gone. He was all cop. He grabbed his radio. All units. Target is mobile. We are clear. Go, go, go. 4 NOPD cars, lights dark, swarmed the storage facility. The police raid was fast, a breach of a quiet tomb. Sarah got out of the car, her heart pounding. LeBlanc led her inside. The facility was cold, silent. They followed the signs to the private archives. The vault door was open, and inside, Sarah stopped. It wasn't a room. It was a museum. It wasn't just one victim. It was 3 figures, preserved, displayed in climate-controlled glass cases, just like Diana. Each one posed, each one dressed. The debutante, the equestrian, the student. "My God," LeBlanc whispered, taking his hat off. It's all real, Angela," Sarah whispered, walking to the first case. "Michelle, Teresa," she had found them. The radio on LeBlanc's shoulder crackled. "Suspect apprehended. Corner of Street Charles and Napoleon. He's in custody." They had him. They had Lawrence. Sarah sank to her knees. The adrenaline, the fear, the 50-year-old rage, it all came pouring out. She had done it. The headlines flashed across the world the next day. Art World Horror, 60-year conspiracy exposed. Tech hair arrested. Vault of victims discovered. The case was blown wide open. The original culprit, Thomas Richter Sr., was finally publicly shamed. His legacy was not art, but atrocity. The living one, Lawrence, was in cuffs, his financial empire in ruins, his secret society of collectors exposed and arrested one by one. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood with Marcus and James Porter. They were in a quiet cemetery. Ruth Maxwell Johnson was there too. They were at a funeral. 3 caskets, 3 families, finally getting to say goodbye after 50 years. "You did it, Sarah," Porter said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "No," Sarah said, watching Ruth lay a flower on the first casket. "We did." She still had the watch. The data had been the key. She looked at the fresh headstones. Angela Carter, 1955. 1971. Michelle Washington, 1957. 1972. Teresa Bailey, 1957-1974. They were no longer specimens. They were no longer pieces. They were home.